Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Building Better Business Practice Management webinar series. Tonight's webinar is a special one. It's in collaboration with the Illinois Society of Acupuncturists and, of course, us, Florida State Oriental Medical Association. And tonight's topic is Revision Your Practice Strategic Planning. So tonight, I am so excited to have Lindy, the president of the Illinois Society, with us tonight. And Lindy, if you want to pop on camera and wave hello to everyone for us. So before we begin with tonight's presentation, I wanted to do some housekeeping to help us stay organized and on track. So we have at the bottom of your screen, we have a couple of icons that I want you to get familiar with if it's your first time joining us. We have the chat icon, which I see a few of you have already used. And we have, hello, Amy. Awesome. So why don't you guys tell us where you're located? I'm in Miami, Florida, and of course, Lindy is in Illinois. And we would love to know where you are joining us from. So why don't you hop onto your chat icon at the bottom and just let us know. So great, we have Ellen in Bradenton, Caroline in Chicago, wonderful, Maria also in Chicago. Nice, we have a lot of Chicago people, thank you. Wonderful. So keep on telling us where you are in the chat box. It's wonderful for us to be able to connect between the states. This is our first collaboration with Illinois Society, and we are just so happy to be able to offer this to our community. Here at FSOMA, we strongly believe that working together does make us stronger. And this is in view of that. Now, the next icon that I want you to look at the bottom of your screen is a Q&A. So during Lindy's presentation, if you have a question, please pop it into there so that will help me stay organized and not miss your questions. And then any links or comments that you want to share, you can pop that in to the chat box. And oh, I didn't introduce myself. Hi, I am Natalia Morrison, and just like you, I am also an acupuncturist, and I'm of course licensed here in Florida. So without further ado, the most important person of tonight, Lindy. Hi.
And I'll take it away.
Yes.
So nice to see all these friendly names popping up into the chat box that I know. So I'm honored to be here this evening, and I'll be bouncing back between you seeing me and then sharing my screen as well. So let me just get that pulled up as well so you can see what's going on. And I'm not a huge PowerPoint person in terms of like overly wordy ones, but we will go from there. Let's see. View and present. Excellent. So now I'm ready to go. So yes, I'm Lindy, current president of the Illinois Society of Acupuncturists. What a lot of people might not know is that prior to being an acupuncturist, I was actually an economist and business major. So I feel like a lot of things that may either come easy to me or I don't even really think that are terribly difficult are often things that might not be in everyone's repertoire or their day-to-day thinking as an acupuncturist. Again, I love our profession for that reason. We have so many vast variety of practices and variety of people that have come to our profession that have had previous professions from marketing or dancing or whatever under the moon they could have been before. And I think that is what enriches our medicine so much, the great diversity. But I thought I would share some of my expertise in hopes of being able to help my fellow colleagues, because this isn't an easy time. we are an unprecedented with the coronavirus, plus a lot of other things are up in the air. And if I can help you navigate where your practice is at, to then hopefully propel you even to beyond where you had ever envisioned for your own current practice for 2021 and beyond, I would hope to just do a little piece of that for you. So tonight's kind of the overview is that, let's see if I can actually change my screen. It's being, oh, there we go. Perfect. So tonight's kind of like the groundwork. We're laying it for a strategic planning. And I'll be going into that in more depth. But when we're going through strategic planning, the key part then is follow up, right? And making sure that we are achieving those goals that we set and revisiting it constantly. We as a state association revisit our strategic planning once a year with an outside group from SCORE Business Mentors. So I will actually be using the SCORE Business Template. And I encourage everyone, if you have never used SCORE before, to find a business mentor in your area. They're a national group and they're free. So finding someone that's a good match with you is also really important. We happen to be so lucky that we have found someone who has worked previously in marketing as well as non-for-profit, so it's a really great match for our state association. But they offer a lot of wonderful resources. So tonight I'm going to take you through like the strategic planning piece. So even if you've been in practice for a while, or if you're wanting to start a new practice, this is pertinent and relevant to you. Then in hopes that whenever we come back in January, we'll review your initial strategic planning. We'll break down into some smaller groups and really kind of dive into it and see where you're at and if you're on track and getting ready to launch you into a great 2021. And then the following 2 weekends, January 17th, this is actually how I met Natalia. And I was part of a team that presented at a group that is integrative medicine for the underserved. And we were presenting on trying to get your key stakeholders, if you were wanting to get into either a different medical practice to be the acupuncturist there, or in a hospital setting. And so that's what our January 17th talk will really focus on, to really increase the amount of people in our profession that can move, if they're interested, from a solo practice and working with other professionals. I think especially with us hopefully moving into more Medicare in the state of Illinois, we're working towards Medicaid. You know, the goal is for integration within the medical system, if that is an interest to you. And even if it's not, getting key stakeholders within your local community to get more people bought into acupuncture, or if you're involved in your local chamber, et cetera, is a really valuable tool. So you can see where people are at. And then try to help move the bar so that they will be more supportive of our medicine or whatever you're trying to achieve in your local community. And then the 24th is revisioning the practice of medicine of acupuncture in the future. I really like thinking back to a lot of the founders and the great masters of our medicine, and they were the forward thinkers of their time. And even though it's an old medicine, and has been around a while, we have to be the forward thinkers of our time. How are we going to get this medicine to continue to stay relevant and to evolve with new scientific understandings and medical expansions and technologies that are at our hands and just even our phones, right? How can we re-envision and future vision the practice of acupuncture in the future so that we remain relevant and we're ahead of the game and we are leading the front of our profession. So today, for the goal, we're going to go through some strategic planning and key components. And I want to hear from you. What are your business challenges as we're going through this, and how you want to have your practice envisioned? So even if we can't get to all of your questions, I'm going to send out a survey to everyone as well of things that if you want them addressed in a future series, we will do that whenever it's in January, or I can answer them individually because I want to make sure that everyone is equipped to the best of their ability going forward. So let me I want to make sure that I can see my chat and questions. So thanks as I escaped out of there for just 1 minute because or Natalia, if you can just pop on if a question pops up, because for some reason I can't see that at the same time or my chat box. Oh, wait.
I will.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now I can see the chat. Perfect. So let me go back in. So I sent out, or in here, there is this link, and I'm going to put it into the chat box. So if you have not already downloaded the SCORE business template, then you can do that. And there we go. So that way you can follow along a little bit easier, because what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to go through the key parts of it, but I really want us to work back from where you want to be. I did a meditation practice probably a few years ago, and it may sound morbid, but I envisioned it. It was my moment of my death, and I had just died. And bear with me here; it's not as morbid as it sounds. But I was reflecting then at that point, how do I want to live my life so that at the end, whenever my time here is finished, I can say that I have done everything that I hope to, helped as many people as possible, and hopefully left at least my immediate world and any world beyond that in a better place. So that's what we're going to be doing here. We're kind of working backwards. Like, where do you want your practice to be? Is that a dollar amount that you want? Is that number of patients that you want to be able to see? A certain type of patient that you're wanting to impact, or increasing the expanse of the radius of which people come, or that maybe you want to treat like more like even economically diverse patients, right? It's like you can set whatever the bar is for yourself, but just envisioning where you would like your practice to be. So let me pull up the template, which is right here. All right. Sorry, it's not as pretty whenever I'm not all zoomed out, but so again, I haven't created this template, but what I'm here for to go through with you is to hopefully like make it seem a little bit less daunting, so that you're not thinking, oh, business plan, like that's too scary. I want you to feel comfortable with it. I just went through this with, I started another side business, and it's really fun. I really enjoy this because you're envisioning your future of this business. Who are the people that you want to attract? Who are your competitors, right? So whenever you're going through this is, I'm sorry to scroll. If it makes anyone dizzy, just close your eyes for one moment. So in this executive summary, you'll kind of come back to this at the end, but this is what will start all business plans. Because if you're wanting to gain funds or investors, or if you're wanting to share this with any outside groups, this is what they will read. This is the culmination of all your work. So it's an overview of your business, and you're describing what you're doing and your goals and your target market in a summary. But we can't start off there, right? So until the person writes like the book cover as to what the book is about, they have to write the book, and then they write the summary of it. So we will get back to the executive summary. That'll be towards the end. But your mission, I mean, yes, to help people, yes, to make people feel better. But what gets you up in the morning? What gets you to your practice and time? What keeps you in a good mood when you're caring for patients, and even positive while all patients are dumping on you, right? Like, what is it that brings you and that you want them to take away from you? Not physically take away from you, but what do you want them to take away from these treatments and this interaction with you? Because whenever you have a clear mission, I have found, and even this is an example with the state association, like our mission with helping our practitioners, and one of our goals is to see if we can get 5 new members every month for the next couple years. And it's so fascinating. Once you hone in your mission and your vision, it's not that it kind of happens. It just helps you to say yes and to say no to certain things. And that way you're not scattered and all over the place. So with the mission statement, again, start typing it out, thinking about what it is that you're hoping for your patients and for your practice. And the vision that goes along with that is like how you're going to kind of achieve that mission, and the values that you're putting behind that mission statement. So if that is too uncomfortable to start there, then I would suggest starting with some of your goals and your target market, which we'll go through some of these here. They have a really nice worksheet, so you can put your business name there. If you have your mission, if you have your vision, you can type those in too. But I do this with all my patients. Like, what are your goals? What are your milestones? What are we checking in on? Like, are your treatments getting the results that you want or that you expect? I have found so many times when someone will come in and they're talking about X problem, and then I ask what their goal is, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'd really like to work on my sleep or whatever it is, even though the whole time they've talked about, let's say, pain. And so really checking in with yourself, like what are your goals and ways to measure that too, so that you are being able to make sure that you're on track. And these will change, right? Ideally, your mission and vision should be more like close, and that shouldn't have to change too drastically. But your goals and milestones will change. And then there's the short term and long term ones that we'll get to in a little bit. Um, as you're going through your target market as well, yes, everybody, right? Everyone needs acupuncture, everyone needs Chinese medicine. But who is it that you're really, again, wanting to attract to your practice? It was an interesting survey, and I'll have to see if I can find it to share with all of you. But it was an independent group that was researching different practices of integrative therapy. And what I thought was interesting here, I would think that it was going to be like all women wanted to try acupuncture across all age groups. And actually, the number one people that were wanting to try acupuncture next were men. And so a lot of it kind of helped me switch my target market even in my head. It's like here, if I'm only focused on trying to get women that are aged 40 to 60 in my practice, I'd be missing out on a really large group of people. But trying to hone in that target market, or maybe that's a target market of a radius, or if it's for a product or something that you're wanting to sell at your practice, really kind of seeing who you think would be the best match, because it's not everybody, right? And sometimes whenever we have a variety in a more diffuse target market, we start again, too scattered, narrow it in. Yes, there will be some outliers that will come that might not be in that target market, but the more clear you are going with the mission and vision and your goals and your target market, the more realistic that your goals will be achieved. And your competitors. I mean, dry needling has been a big issue in the state of Illinois. I am not quite as up to date on Florida, but that we have some competitors in the field, right? And as potentially more people want to use our medicine, whether they are in nursing or physical therapy or whatever, athletic trainers, we had that issue in Illinois as well. We are going to have competitors. And so really setting ourselves as the experts in the field and making sure that other people know that. And that means practitioners, I mean, other doctors, really the general public, so that they can make an educated decision about who to go see, so that they know the training that you have as acupuncture physicians in the state of Florida and in Illinois, if we have our doctorate, et cetera. Just really like honing and making sure that you're aware of that and seeing what those competitors or other industry people are doing. Like, what are they doing to attract to their practices? What are they saying on their websites? It's not, you can learn a lot from that, right? I mean, you can always learn from people that are setting a great example, but I'm sure all of us have had that boss or that coworker or someone that we've worked with that you're like, I'm not going to do it that way, right? That can also teach you just as much. So never leave this piece out whenever you're doing your strategic planning, because it can really help teach you a lot about yourself and your business, about what they're doing. Because if they're getting a lot of patients, you know, even though they're your competitor, it's definitely worth learning from. And again, for if many of you are in practice already, your legal structure and ownership may already be set in stone. But never the worst thing to go back and revisit it to see if you need to change either to an S Corp or an LLC or a C Corp, just to see what is the best benefit for you. That I can't provide you any insight on, but definitely something to always worth considering. So then your products or services, you know, it's important to also advertise, not even advertise, just educate, right? Educate people all that you do. don't even don't cut yourself short and having it only be acupuncture. Like really think through everything that you do, and so that you can highlight that and highlight it on a consistent basis, because even though you may have said it 3 months ago, it doesn't mean that that person was listening at that time. And so we're even seeing that in the state here. We've had some people say like, well, why can't we do this? And it's like, well, actually you can. It's in your practice act. And so it was a good reminder for us as a state association that we have to continue to educate people on a regular basis just about some of the stuff that we take not even for granted, but just that we as a board may know, and to continually educate people about that. So same thing for your products and services that you're offering, to the top notch, like what you offer, what you do, but not a lot of other people do. And until they are in pain or not sleeping or feeling irritable, until that problem arises for them, they probably didn't give two hoots about acupuncture. But now all of a sudden they are, and they're wanting to learn. And you want to make sure that your stuff is probably online in most cases, to really educate them about what you offer at your clinic and the things that you can do to help them. And so again, you can go through this. And I really like to highlight this here, the special benefits and the unique features. What makes you unique and different? So I think sometimes it freaks people out if they do a Google search and you see that you have 20 acupuncturists within a 10-mile radius of you or more, right? But if you look at like medical doctors, I mean, they could have like 100 doctors within the same radius, or physical therapists, et cetera. What makes you unique? You're going to find patients, like some patients will be attracted to one person and other patients will be attracted to another person. Like, what are your special pieces about your services, and the way that you want to care for people? Again, going back to your mission and vision, that will set you apart and really highlight that you're different, even than your other colleagues. And I have found a number of times, even just on that little bio section on your website, that people do read that. They want to see who their practitioner is, what it is that interests them, what do they stand for, what are they involved with, and I highlight your unique features about yourself on there. Again, if you aren't telling anyone, they won't know. So making sure that you can really identify within yourself, and your practice what sets you apart. We don't have to go into probably like production and suppliers quite as much, but if anyone has questions on that later, let me know. So a big piece, with strategic planning is a marketing plan, because again, it's getting this information out to other people and letting them know what it is that you offer. So now that you have kind of like broken down who you are, who you want to treat, now you can go in to looking at market research. And here again, they break it down lovely, but like market research, barriers to entry, threats and opportunities. And I'm going to go back down. This is where they'll break it up. So a SWOT analysis, again, not rocket science, not anything that hasn't been talked about before in many circles. But if you're not familiar with it, it stands for strengths, as you can see in the top line here, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when you can go through this and see what your strengths of your products, or in this case, your services are, looking at your own weaknesses, right? Have I showed up to practice right at the bell when I'm supposed to start at my first patient is at 1, and then I show up at 12:55? Like that could be a weakness, right? That doesn't reflect well. I've heard of patients even commenting on different doctors that they've seen that they pull in 20 minutes after that first patient's appointment. Like we want to make sure that we are showing up professionally and giving our best foot forward all the time. And so really looking at yourself if you have any weaknesses like there. And then looking at your opportunities. What is it that you can grow with? And that's where right now with COVID, right? How are you then re-envisioning your practice to go forward? And what are those opportunities for next year? Maybe I didn't sell a lot of products or a lot of herbs in my office this year, but if I have maybe less patients, who knows, maybe you have more right now. Then I'm going to take that extra time to really educate patients on either some of the products, if it fits for them, right? Whether it's different herbal medicine or topical, take those opportunities to really expand your practice in some way. And at the same time, educating your patient and helping them. You're not forcing them, you're educating and helping them understand. Again, if they didn't know about it and you didn't tell them, they're not even think about putting Postman on there. They wouldn't even heard of it, right? So taking those opportunities and looking at your own practice, what you may already have in place, and how can you get better about making sure that your patients are informed. And again, similar to like marketing competition, look at your threats, right? Right now, one of our threats is a pandemic going on. How are you combating that? Obviously, we can't change the effects of COVID right now. But how can you take that and make it better? So like in Illinois, for example, we're really working hard on trying to get telehealth covered. Again, I don't know whether it's covered or not in Florida. Since you're primary physicians, you probably can do it, but I don't know that answer. But in Illinois, we're working really hard to be able to get that opportunity. And we were just told the other day, which I have to still update all of our members for those that are on can hear, but they said it won't be in the veto session that they're going to be visiting telehealth, but it'll be first thing on the docket next year in January. So again, we didn't even know this was a threat because we didn't try to use telehealth beforehand. So COVID actually brought to light something that was missing in our practice abilities. And it allowed us to then try to expand our practice to be able to get included. So looking at your own practice, certain threats that may have come up through COVID, and turning even that threat into an opportunity. That's what we want. Are you worried that patient numbers are going to drop off if it's spiking? Well, then tell your patients and communicate more, send out more like e-blasts or whatever, letting them know of all the things that you're doing to keep your treatment rooms clean, to keep them safe, new policies that you have in place so that they then feel comfortable coming into your office in a safe way without, so then moving the threat. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you can do telehealth in Florida for those answering. Yes. And so then as you go through your strengths, that's what I was talking about, is you move these weaknesses or threats and turn them into a strength. Again, it's similar to what we'll be talking about in January, this getting buy-in. So a little bit more internal, like turning your sights inward and trying to find ways to turn these threats into opportunities. Because I found, this little business that I started with a friend of mine during the quarantine, it was an idea that I had 3 years ago. But until I had like 3 months of like not working and some just downtime, I could really like let it kind of bubble up in my head and think of some fun ideas and how to do it. So trying to take the best of this condition that we're in, or state that we're in, and making it something even better whenever we come out. Yes. And so your target customer, again, going through age, gender, location, income, and key competitors will be great. And so here too, if you can collect some competitor data, again, I don't know how freely, I know you have to be careful with how much you share with how much people are charging, but if you can get an idea, just to see, make sure that or ask some of your friends that are colleagues and just make sure you're within the price range that you feel comfortable, and that they're doing as well. Yes, this score document is available. I sent that was in the chat. So if you go to that link, the score.org resource, and then you can download the SCORE business plan. Thanks for your question. So with competitor data, gathering their prices, and then seeing what benefits and features they offer, size, market strategy, etc. I was just talking about that probably earlier. And this I like too, because then whenever we just got a new roof on our house. Whenever you get a new roof or new thing at your house, what do? You get a couple other examples or estimates. And so same thing here, like compare yourself to pick 3 other people and then rate it whether it's important to the customer or not, or the patient. And this way you again can kind of see like line by line where you're matching up, how you're doing in comparison. Some might not be applicable, but for those that are, try to go through as much as possible, and compare. Again, very worthwhile to just see where you're standing in there. And as I'm scrolling through, I'm again trying not to make anyone dizzy. So then, if you're wanting to get the word out, you've done this marketing plan, how much are you going to dedicate to that? I've heard of the person that'll be like, well, I tried to boost something on Facebook once and it didn't help at all. You know, doing things one time is typically not going to be successful in marketing. You need to continuously send out the message, and whatever message that is that you want them. And so is that meaning I am going to dedicate to Instagram for the next 6 months, and I'm going to send out posts or boosts every week, and I'm going to spend $30 for each week, so it'll total $120 in a month. And maybe do that for 3 months and see what sort of return you get. And again, being clear about where you want to direct them to. Do you want to direct them to your website? Do you want to direct them to a specific page to contact you so that they maybe will email you, and so you can develop kind of a new patient stream? But again, just trying things for one time, you're not going to get the results that you want. And that will be frustrating. And then it will be lost revenue for yourself, and for your practice. And especially at this time, you have to be so careful. We're all like keeping a close eye on our numbers to make sure that we're not wasting money. So that is a good way to kind of like, I'm going to try this target market first, try it for 3 months, see, and then you can measure to see how many patients came in off of those. And tracking where your new patients come from is so important, so that you know if the money that you've invested or the effort that you have pushed to go get more people doing Google reviews. So that's even something. So like for my practice, the first week of every month, I always look through my patients, and if it's someone, and just ask for more like Google reviews. It doesn't cost you anything in this case. And then you appear higher on a Google listing. But the reason why I have it on my calendar for that first week of the month, it's just a reminder, because otherwise you forget to ask. You forget to say, oh, I've seen you've been getting better. It seems like you're doing well. Do you mind writing a review? Or just letting people know that it's an opportunity. So just throwing that out there. Consistency. Pricing, again, if you want to talk with some other people to see where you kind of stand in between. And I know a piece of it's insurance, so that might be less applicable as well. Distribution channel, that, again, I'm going to skip over that because you're most likely going to be distributing in your practice. And again, sorry, some of this doesn't apply to your offices. And then the management and organization. Again, if you're already in place and going, great. If you're not, this is a good thing, just to make sure that you've got enough advisors in place and just kind of a rundown of people. So I'm going to keep scanning. Sorry about that. Setting up an organizational chart. Thank you for waiting. So your finances, right? Big piece of this. How are we making sure that you're still remaining profitable in this time? What is that sweet number in your head that makes it worthwhile to go into work? Yes, I would love to work for free, and that would be amazing. But I have bills to pay, right? You all have bills to pay. We can't do that realistically, even though we love what we do. And so you will find that you are more content and happy if you are meeting the same financial hopes at the same time. So really think about whenever, oh, I skip. Okay, I'll go back to the pricing slide if you like. So making sure that you are really setting that goal in mind of, let's say you want to make 80,000 a year, right? Is that gross? Is that what I'm bringing in before my expenses? Or do we want to talk about like after expenses. So bring in 100,000, maybe you have 20,000 expenses, and you can pay yourself 80,000, whatever that amount is. And then you have to work your way backwards. So this is, I guess, why I went to this first instead of the pricing plan. Because sometimes I feel like we start at, I'm going to charge $70 a visit. How many people do I need? This is how much I'll make. But instead, I like to work backwards. Again, this notion of like where I want to be, and then how do I have to get there? So if your target is 80,000 that you can pay yourself, breaking that down backwards by the number of months, the number of days that you're going to be working, and then the number of patients that you would need to see in that time, so that you can gauge. And I encourage you to keep track of your stats. I find it very helpful. Like each month, at the end of the month, I look at number of patients that I've seen, new patients, just to make sure, again, that you're on track. Not even from a monetary piece, but it's nice to be able to compare. And then you can start seeing challenges that, let's say every August I'm slow. That means that I then maybe need to do some more networking or more online ads or whatever the person chooses 2 months, 3 months in advance, so that they're ready potentially to come in August, so that you're trying to like see where you're going up and down and really get ahead of it in your planning on a daily basis. And so that's why I think the pricing is almost backwards. And do not undercharge for our value of our medicine. I know that we have a lot of, sometimes some clinics are set up as like sliding scales, and that's wonderful. There's definitely a place for that. But if that's not the model that you're interested in, please don't cut yourself short. You are valuable. You are doctors, you are health practitioners, and you deserve to be paid for the education that you have received. And then people also hold it in a higher esteem, right? If we're charging $20 a visit, someone can go out and probably buy McDonald's for that price or even more. They're spending more on that. So then they see you like the equivalent of your fast food person. And I really want to make sure that our practitioners are really kind of increasing that bar. And yes, you love the medicine, but we don't have to have this poverty mentality of like, I'm just going to do it for free. You are of worth, you are of value. And what your services are so important to other people, that they'll either figure out a way to make it work, because it is a value. Or what you may even see is that then maybe you don't need to see 10 patients a day, and you could see 8 because you charge more, and then you can give more care, and then they will also send more to people. And if you want to offer a free or reduced clinic or time, maybe that's every Friday for your patients, so you can still give back, or find other ways that you can volunteer, just so there's a clear separation, so that you're not minimizing the value that you are definitely worth. Does that help with some of that? So I guess I did skip over some of the startup expenses. And that is important to look at if you're a brand new person, and just, again, figuring out your expenses in comparison to the amount that you're hoping to make sure that you're in the black or in the profitable area. And kind of knowing your break even number, right? Let's say after your first 20 patients in the month, that's your break even. Then everyone else, you start paying yourself, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can break it down. Like, I want to see 10 patients a week. Okay. Or another person may say, like, I want to see 20 patients in a month, or after 20 patients in a month, I know that I will then be profitable, or that will be going into my income. So you can try to decide how you would like to calculate that. And that's where I'm happy to break it down with people based on their own specific numbers. Because sometimes and they even have in this SCORE business plan, a break-even analysis that you can download, and other templates as well. But I'm happy to go through that with people individually if you have questions. All righty. I am looking for the one page that I'm not seeing in here with my other one that I had just recently done. I will go back to my slides, but essentially in there's also a piece that is short-term and long-term goals. This is so important because this is something that you want to check in more regularly than not. My short-term goals are from 1 to 2 months, sometimes 3. And what I do is I print those up and I hang them up in a spot in my kitchen that I see every time that I go past. Um, and because it's right in front of me, then you can see where you are and save them, right? Archive them. It's really cool. It's like a journal, but for your business. You can go back then and look and see where your strategic plan has started to shift the bar and how that time invested in planning, which can take initially the first time, if you're going through this, probably about 4 to 5 hours. And then times after that, when you're just kind of revising, maybe an hour or two. And whenever you're checking in quarterly, maybe a half an hour. Um, but you can then see where you're going. It sends a trajectory, and you can, instead of just kind of like aimlessly wandering from patient to patient and wondering if you're going to make it, you can see growth, which is encouraging and it's exciting. And you can see changes in your demographics or the patients that you're seeing. So I really encourage you to do that, because it's, and to hang up those short-term goals in a very visible spot that you either pass all the time in your practice or at your home, to make sure you're doing the things that you want to, that will help you in your practice, because you are important. And I wanted to open this up to the group. I'm going to put this link in here, and then I'll get rid of my screen. I think, or I might have put it in I did put it there. Let me just copy this. So any questions and topics that you think of in the next month, just add them to this Google Doc for me. And I want to make sure that they're addressed as we're going through this. Or if you have one that you just forgot to ask, you can either email me at thepresident@ilsa acu.org, or you can put it in the Google Forms so that I know what are concerning you. So I'm going to open this up to the floor a little bit if anyone wanted to chime in, because I want to hear the challenges that you're facing. I've been talking too much. And so I wanted to see if there's any other questions or comments at this point to go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that presentation. So guys, make sure your questions, if you can help us out, just put them in the Q&A icon. And we did have a chat come in. Biggest challenge overcoming patients' fear of COVID to resume treatments.
Yes. And that's why I really encourage you to start, like, as soon as I was coming back to practice after I had closed my practice for 2.5 months here in Illinois, even before going back in, I started emailing them all in my MailChimp, just to say, this is what I've been going through in quarantine, right? So it's relatable. They can see that it's a challenge as a practitioner, because we are also human, right? And so I think it brings in the human piece. And then I let them know in there all of the precautions that I'm taking in my class, not my class, in my practice, to keep them safe. And there's probably 2 patients that I was seeing before that I have still chosen not to come in because they're immune compromised, which I fully support that, right? Like, and I think we have to realize that as practitioners. And though while we can't offer telehealth, I still call them, right? Like, we're not charging for it. I just want to make sure that they're okay. And showing your patients get that you care about them, even if they don't want to come in, they will come back whenever COVID is either safer or there's a vaccine, or they get to the point where they feel comfortable. And then you'll see your patient load come back. But I really encourage you to just to almost over inform them about everything that you're doing in your practice. I mean, and having temperature checks, calling them whenever their room is ready. If you feel like spacing patients out even more so that there's no crossing paths with people, like, your patients. And I actually found it interesting. I had a number of patients that I hadn't even seen for a couple of years, so my older patients, whenever they started coming back after COVID, they came to me first because they were still afraid of of going to their doctors, but they had seen previously the care that I took to clean my room even before COVID that they then felt comfortable coming in. They're like, oh yeah, we know you keep it clean, not a worry, so because, and sometimes even having them see you physically clean the space is comforting. Like I took everything out of my treatment rooms. I have like a picture in there now. And everything else is kind of like locked and covered. If I can't wipe the surface down in between patients, and I have air purifiers in every room with a UV light and HEPA filter that's blasting, obviously we're wearing masks. So I think if you can communicate to them, they will feel less afraid. And we can't make everyone not feel afraid, but hopefully that can help a little.
Yeah, that's good feedback. And also, they're a good referral source. So even if they themselves don't feel comfortable, they have family, they have friends, they're still um, communicating and talking to people, and they're going to refer you because you have shown that you care and that you're there
Yes,
and that you want to help. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Giving them a little TLC. We all need that
Yeah.
nowadays.
Wonderful. This was a wonderful presentation. I hope all of you enjoyed it. And I see we have some Florida people that signed up with us, that signed in as well. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining us. And keep an eye out on information regarding the um, the 3-part series that we're going to do in January. It's going to be about 4 hours in total, give or take, depending on what you guys need and the support that you need at the time. It's going to be on Sundays around the middle of the day. That's what we're aiming for. So just keep an eye out. We're going to be sending information for you shortly. But if you are interested in that and you want to be on the wait list, please email us. Lindy shared her email, which is president@ilsa.acu. And you can email us at support@fsoma.org. And we're here to help and to support everyone. So thank you. And let's see, there's a couple of
And I'm also
comments.
sending everyone the slides. Not that they're that extensive, but you can at least have the few links that I have on there and my email if you need to reach out. I'm honestly happy to go through this with one-on-one if you need someone to bounce ideas off and talk through. I mean, sometimes I feel for my other colleagues, it's really hard whenever we're trying to navigate through all this. Yeah, I know, Ellen, the violation of antitrust laws for pricing, you're correct. Um, and so that's where, I mean, but if you're talking with your friends, I mean, I remember talking with just one-on-one, not that you're setting it, but it's good to get some feedback. Um,
Well,
you know,
one thing that I've um, I've experienced is that I will get random calls for people asking for prices. And I personally don't, I navigate my fee schedule in a different way. So it's kind of hard to say, yes, this is like what your initial visit is. Now with COVID, it's like, yes, I have a set price and whatnot. But you can just call and look up Yellow Pages, look up acupuncturists in your area. You don't have to know them, and just call and find out what their fees are. Um, and then that can help, you already have some information, and that can help you go from there and figure out what the best fee schedule structure is. And obviously, based on all the additional information that Lindy shared with you.
yeah, and so
Um,
that's why I said just start at the front end of like, or the back end, I guess, if where how much you want to be making, right? And then go backwards, divide it by the number of days that you want to work, number of patients you want to see, and just
mhm.
and see what that number is for you. And if you're comfortable with it and it's not like $500 an hour, which insurance companies would flag, then yeah,
Yeah, that's
look at
exactly how I did it. Mm.
that. Well,
And
thank
so
you
make
all. I'm so grateful for everyone attending.
Yeah, let's see. There's one more comment. I'm not.
Yeah.
Maybe fixes patients. Right. So patients sometimes just mention you. and see an ad, of course. Preview fixing, I'm not sure what that is. Yeah,
Are you just at, can you
in the
retype the
chat.
question, BC Anderson?
Right. So
Or,
while we wait for BC to retype the comment so that way we can help answer. Okay. All right.
gotcha.
Great. It was a response to a comment and not a question. Thank you.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, with price fixing. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining us, Lindy. I mean, thank you for sharing your time and your experience with us. And we look forward to seeing all of you in January for the 3-part series
Yes.
on strategic planning. So whether
And do
you're
your homework, because I will be checking in on you January 10th. I want to see these completed because you're worth it.
yeah, beautifully said.
All right.
Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.